Hello, this is Jay Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have, man changed his name to literally anybody else and announced his U.S. presidential run from The Guardian, and I posted that, and I said, looks like the feds are already trying to stop him. I don't think what he's doing is too honest, but that being said, honest politician is frankly an oxymoron. I hope he can, win, or at least get a vote or two, I would say. And we have Mises Institute Chairman Lou Rockwell freaking out about race mixing and the possibility of a Hispanic president, written by Rockwell and published on his website today, and that's from the Fakeritarian's Twitter account posted by LegioX. And I said, anti-white racism is definitely a problem, but I agree that this goes a little far. I personally don't care for any racism. With that being said, the problem is that racism is one of the only things that IDPOL progressives seem to care about, and to them, anti-white racism is not just condoned, but downright encouraged. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have States That Oppose Individual Liberty from AaronInTheMorning.com by Clorox, and that is a map of what states have restrictions on transgender stuff, I would say. And I said, there are other issues when it comes to liberty other than LGBTQ stuff. It really feels that's all Reddit cares about. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Trespassers Welcome, How the Law Protects Squatters from John Stossel on YouTube. And I posted that and I said, we really live in a world where the legal system doesn't even respect your own property rights. It's very scary to think about. And, that just goes to show you that the legal system is ultimately just going to justify whatever it justifies, and that's why you can't rely on it. You got to rely on yourself. You can't rely on the legal system. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Florida latest to restrict social media for kids as legal battle looms from WashingtonPost.com. And I said, I don't think children should be on social media, but I don't think it's the job of the state to enforce that. Then we have New Hampshire representative destroys routine infant circumcision from Intaction on YouTube. And I said, I don't think we should be using taxpayer money on circumcision either. I don't think that children can consent to it personally. Same philosophy that they market as gender-affirming care. And that's my thoughts on that issue. I personally was circumcised, but that being said, I don't think I should have been because I wasn't asked whether I consent to it or not. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Misinformation Expert is a fake credential. It was invented after 2016 to disguise political censorship as an act of neutral science. The idea that people like this can be floating arbiters of truth and falsity and their decrees should be binding is a laughable fraud from Glenn Greenwald on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, agreed. Those in positions of authority can label anything they want to as misinformation or hate speech for that matter. Then we have thinking the Jones Act will protect you from shipwrecks is like thinking gun control will protect you from shootings from Spike Cohen on Twitter, and I posted that, and that was him quote tweeting Thomas Massey. Well, he quote tweeted Colin Grabo who quote tweeted Thomas Massey. Thomas Massey says, "My district has 250 miles of Ohio River, free dams, city water intakes, and dozen bridges. The Jones Act requires shipping on inland waterways being conducted by vessels built registered and crewed in the United States. I support the Jones Act even if it's protectionist." And I said, Massey seemed to be so good as well, at least as good as you can be when serving in the U.S. government. I personally don't think, the Baltimore Bridge collapse, that was a shipwreck registered to Singapore. With that being said, just because the ship would have been illegal otherwise doesn't mean, a U.S. vessel could have just done the same thing. And, that's just, it's not going to protect people. Like as Cohen says, it's like gun control is not going to protect you from shootings. The Jones Act is not going to protect you from shipwrecks or other ship-related issues, I would say. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, there's a revolving door between politics and media, and liberal journalists did not find this controversial until about 5 seconds ago from Reason on Twitter, and I posted that. And that was them talking about how Ron McDaniel was hired by MSNBC, and there was a riot over that, but they didn't care when they hired Psaki or anything like that. So it just goes to show you that, I said it's important to remember that big government and big media are often one and the same, just like big government and big business. Michael Steele, another former GOP, has been on MSNBC for a while as well, which goes to show that the GOP are pretty much nothing but controlled opposition. I think they did just fire McDaniel, but even then, it just goes to show you that they're all pretty much, it's all pretty much political theater, I would say, when it comes to the R's versus the D's, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Calgary judge rules 27-year-old can go ahead with maid death despite father's concerns from CBC, and I posted that, and I said, I'm personally against it, especially since she seems to be completely healthy outside of having autism and ADHD, but as a libertarian, I don't want to tell other people what they can and can't do with their own bodies. Then we have aid drop-off Gaza Beach leads to drownings, local authorities say from Reuters.com by Frosty Slawman. And I said, even when the government tries to tell people, it only hurts them. That's just an example of that. Then we have a Missouri police sniper killed a 2-year-old girl. Why did he take the shot? From kcur.org by Tom 13. They added, this is a terrible story that's worth your time to read all the way through. I'm appalled but not surprised. No one is going to be held accountable for this killing. And I agree with that. Ultimately, we shouldn't be justifying any killings by the police, but, this just goes to show you that the police can kill anyone regardless of their age or racial background. And that's my thoughts on that issue. That's why you can't trust them. They could turn on you at any second. And they had the power of the state behind them too, so you can't go after them for anything legally, stuff like qualified immunity, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have RFK Jr. set to top Silicon Valley lawyer Nicole Shanahan as a running mate, reports from NY Daily News, and I posted that and I said, I was hoping for Aaron Rodgers, but it's a decent pick. I personally don't think I'll be voting for RFK Jr. because I think he's kind of a gun grabber. But, I definitely do think a third-party performance could only be a good thing at this point, a strong third-party performance. Then we have the Iraq War Explained from Mr. Beat on YouTube, and I posted that, and I said, to me, the key issue of the Iraq War is to never trust anything the government tries to sell you on. It's something you also kind of saw with 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and a lot of stuff that they're trying to sell right now in relation to January 6th. I'll put it this way, 9/11 was bad, what they used to sell was worse. Patriot Act and Iraq War. 1/6 was bad, what they're using it to sell is worse. Mass censorship and demonization of anyone who makes sense whatsoever. Then we have Florida bans all social media accounts for kids from the Kyle Klinsky Show on YouTube, and that's from Anarcho Federation. And I said, and he added, this is a libertarian channel, but the content of the video is very much of interest in libertarian. And I said, I don't think children should be on social media, but I don't think it's a job of the state to enforce that. Then we have only 2 more weeks until the Magic ACA fix plan comes out, just like every 2 weeks since 2016, from Clorox, and that's a cross post from the Cold Headquarters subreddit. And it's a Donald Trump who proved, I'm not running to terminate the ACA as crooked Joe Biden disinformates and misinformates all the time. I'm running to close the border, stop inflation, make our economy great, strengthen our military, make the ACA or Obamacare is no much better, stronger, and far less expensive. In other words, make the ACA much, much better for far less money or cost to our great American citizens. And I said, Fauci, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Putin, 2 weeks to conquer Ukraine. Trump, 2 weeks to the ACA improvement. The lesson is, it's never just 2 weeks. And that's my thought on that issue. Then we have, why isn't there been a Falling for Dr. Fauci cover piece yet from Melissa Chen on Twitter? And that was her response to the Falling for Dr. Huberman New York cover story from New York Magazine. And I said, wishful thinking, they would never take down one of their own. Speaking of New York Magazine, I would never not find it funny when I saw their cover picture for their October 2016 issue of my college's library alongside the Advocates after the election, because the cover for New York Magazine was, it said Trump, it had a picture of Trump on it that said loser, and then the Advocate had a picture of Hillary on it that said hashtag winner. So that just goes to show you that, they're definitely kind of biased in that regard. Then we have skull emoji from Reddit Lies, and that's a Reddit comment from user Retro123121. And they said, it said, see, as someone who had unrestricted internet access and a porn addiction at 9 years old, I agree. But on the other hand, as a trans, queer person with conservative, homophobic parents, I'm not sure I'd be here today if I hadn't had that online space to express myself. And I said, you couldn't capture the essence of Reddit better if you tried. And that's my thought on that issue. Then we have free speech is under attack in the U.S., but it's on the ropes elsewhere from Reason. And I posted that, and I said, there is an increasing push to make it illegal to see what the government deems to be hate speech or misinformation. Sounds like free speech might have not much time left, sadly, of the rate we're going. Then we have a Nigerian woman reviewed some tomato puree online. Now she faces jail from CNN by Ninja Lover. And I said, coming to the West soon, it looks like. Already here if you can find something interpreted as offensive in the review. And that's what I think about that issue, Censorship is not just exclusive to the West, but, increasingly the West is really seems to be supporting it. And that's my thoughts there. Then we have the TikTok bill isn't just about TikTok. It's a weapon against people like Elon Musk who don't play ball with the U.S. government when it comes to limiting lawful content. The NY Times is already making the case he's subject to the direction of control of a foreign adversary from Justin Amash on Twitter, and I posted that. And I said, just goes to show you that the government can get it and stretch the law and interpret however they want to. And I also added, laws really don't even matter, to be honest. They seem to be able to justify pretty much anything since they're in positions of authority. Then we have Palestinians call U.S.'s temporary computer in Gaza occupation port. And that's from Frosty Slawman from MiddleEastMonitor.com. And I would agree with that. The U.S. is really screwing over the Gazans right now, even though it's trying to market itself as helping them. And that's important to remember, I would say. Then we have Fifth Circuit has nullified open carry in Texas to save qualified immunity of some dirty cops from Slayer 911. And that's a cross post from the Bad Cop No Donut subreddit. And I agree that it's definitely not libertarian. We should be stopping qualified immunity and supporting open carry, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have there have been a few anti-DEI posts on here recently. I found a better one from Tom 13, and that's another Tom the Dancing Bug comic that they'd like to share. And I said, the punchline of every strip is aren't Republicans bad? And I thought that they said conservatives only had one joke. And that's my thought on that issue. Then we have U.S. sanctions online site Gaza Now and its founder for allegedly supporting Hamas from abcnews.go.com by Frosty Slawman. And I said, imagine sanctioning someone for running a website. That would be like giving someone 2 life sentences for running a website. Happy birthday to Ross Ulbricht, by the way. That's, he got 2 life sentences for running a website. And I also added, I also think it's funny how supposed free speech Republicans become censorship lovers whenever Israel or anti-Semitism is brought up. I linked to a tweet from Brett Abbott on Twitter who just tweeted, anti-Semitism will not be tolerated in Texas. Dash an executive order to fight the increase in anti-Semitism in Texas colleges and universities. And that's my thought on that issue. Then we have my brother. You sold a property NY valued at $1.8 million to someone for $17.5 million, and they lost $4 million of it. And if you paid taxes on a valuation of $748K, when it came time to pay taxes, he undervalued his property. From Tim Pool on Twitter, and I posted that. And that was him quote tweeting John Stewart, who tweeted, "OMG, I've been caught doing something not remotely similar to Trump. I guess all I need to do now is start a fraud college, steal classified docs, bankrupt casinos, pay hush money, grab pussies, discriminate in housing, cheat at golf, and form an insurrection, and you'll revere me." And I said, it's rules for thee, not for me. Of course, Stewart dragged Trump for overvaluing his properties, but now it looks like he has overvalued his by 829%. That's what I like to say, rules for thee, not for me. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we was just thinking about this from Boilovich on, and that's a cross post from the Washington, D.C. subreddit. My favorite thing about the storming of the Capitol is the supporters who Googled the wrong Georgia and waved flags of European countries they didn't even know existed. And, I definitely do think that's kind of funny, I would say. I would agree there. Then we have conservatives think Jon Stewart selling his apartment to a buyer willing to pay the agreed price is the same as Trump lying to banks to get a loan. And that's across from the Little Humor Server at PipeTom14. That was a tweet from Jon Stewart that Tim Pool tweeted earlier. And I said, I'm sure if Jon Stewart was Tucker Carlson and did the exact same thing, this subreddit would agree that was a very shitty thing to do, especially after dragging Trump for doing the exact same shit. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And we have Blake Murdoch on X by Narco Federation, and that was them. Blake Murdoch tweeted, "This is a systemic misdemeanor of sick kids and forced infection of particular pathogens now being enforced by actual police and frats, not to mention all the other reasons the child may need to stay home more than 5% of the time. The UK has completely lost the plot." And they added, "The UK police sending out serial killers and threatening parents." And I personally would agree that, the police shouldn't be enforcing children to stay home or go to school, and that's my thoughts on that issue. With that being said, sometimes people might be sick at school, and that's something you have to cope with, I guess. That's why I personally would be very against schooling. All the kids tend to get sick by being close together, so, ultimately I think we should just have, maybe just abolish schooling, just have kids learn for themselves, I would say. It's probably a lot better than having teachers teach them things, and, it's very much a way to push their agenda on them, I would say, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have members of Congress admitting that biblical perspectives are steering U.S. foreign policy from Donald Key, and that's crosswords from Interesting as Fuck subreddit. And, I definitely don't think that's good, and we need to hold the government accountable when they let outside interests influence their views on foreign policy or other issues, and that's my thoughts on that issue. I personally like the Bible, but with that being said, I don't think it should be influencing our foreign policy. And I think that's going to be it for today, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.